noise!
Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm. Brought to you by FunkinStuff.net, this is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I am your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine, musicologist, creative arts journalist, and multimedia pro. Whether you're watching the video version of this show or the audio-only podcast version, I thank you so much for your continued interest and support in this show. If you enjoy this programming, there are several ways to help support Truth and Rhythm, as well as contribute to further enhancements and expansion, plus get some sweet perks and rewards in the process. First, subscribe to the Funkin' Stuff channel on YouTube, which is where Truth and Rhythm lives, and be an advocate by spreading the word among fellow funk, jazz, and R&B music lovers. Second, join Truth and Rhythm's new membership program through Patreon, which features 3 tiers for truth believers, truth seekers, and truth crusaders. You can also submit a direct donation to the cause anytime at FunkinStuff.net. At that site, which is loaded with awesome content, you can also purchase the book Everything's on the One, The First Guide of Funk, shop for official Truth and Rhythm and Funkin' Stuff merchandise, and use the Amazon links for all of your online purchases, which allocates a percentage to this show. Sponsorship opportunities are available as well. Contact me directly at scottg@funkinstuff.net. For those of you who go the extra step in supporting the show, you have my heartfelt gratitude for allowing us to continue to shine the light on those special artists whose quest is to find truth in rhythm.
I am pleased to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership guitarist Omar Mesa, best known as an original member of one of the all-time great funk soul bands, Mandrill. Along with the Wilson Brothers at its core, he shined with the group during its ascent and peak from 1970 to 1973. That included the band's self-titled debut, Mandrill Is, Composite Truth, and Just Outside of Town albums that spawned tracks like Get It, Ape Is High, Hang Loose, which went to number 25 in the R&B chart, Fencewalk, which went to number 19, Mango Meat, and Two Sisters of Mercy. Incorporating jazz and Latin musical elements, during that period, Mandrill also gained acclaim as one of the most original and fierce live acts. Having left the band in the mid-1970s, Mesa has continued to play, record, and live life on its own terms. His new single is titled, I Love the Way You Read My Mind. Omar, thank you for joining me. How are you?
Hi, Scott. Nice to meet you.
Likewise. Thanks for spending time with us today. Appreciate it.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
I tracked you down over some time, but I'm finally glad that you got the record out and we could make this happen.
Cool. Yeah, I appreciate it. I just had to make one correction on, and probably most people don't know that on Just Outside of Town, I really only contributed my song Aspiration Flame on that. And I think it was Dougie Rodriguez who played Mango Meat. I've performed all those songs with them later on when we did some tours. I came back and played some those tunes from that album live, but the actual album, I'm really mainly 1 through 3, Fencewalk and them.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, we'll get into some more of those details. I appreciate that. Setting the record straight. That's Truth and Rhythm. We want all the truth. So
gotta be truthful, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Omar, where are you today?
I'm in Fort Lauderdale, where I live. Yeah.
And now, originally you're from Cuba and then grew up in New York, right? So, how did you gravitate toward music in the beginning?
Well, I was born in Havana and actually moved to parents brought me to Hoboken, New Jersey, is where I grew up for the first like teenage year up to teenage years. And for the first 10 years, I only heard Latin music until I was 10 years old. That's all I heard. And, looking back, sometimes I think maybe that's where I got my funk from, because there's so much syncopation in Latin music. And then I got turned on by a cousin, a little older cousin, to American music on the radio. And I used to sit by the radio at night. I wouldn't watch TV, man. I would just sit. I started with the doo-wops, Get a Job, and all those songs, and then Jackie Wilson, Chuck Berry, all the soul acts. And then, of course, leading into the Beatles, Frankie Valli, you name it. Those were my influences. And then when the Beatles came out, I said, man, you could actually play a guitar and do a band, So we formed a band in Hoboken, friends of mine. And we had this little teenage band. We were like the hit of Hoboken. We were like the Beatles of Hoboken, so to speak. And so those are the early start.
How old were you when you moved to America?
6 years old. Right down the street from where Sinatra grew up. He was way long gone by then.
Okay. Yeah. I've spent some time in Hoboken. It's got a great view of the city from there.
Beautiful. It's got the best view of the city.
Yeah.
I've always said that to people. Sinatra Park right there. It's a beautiful view of the city.
Who were some of your early guitar influences or heroes?
Well, definitely Chuck Berry and George Harrison and B.B. King were the first 3, I would say. Then the Stones came, and then of course Jimmy, and then and Carlos Santana, of course, later on in the 60s.
Did you have any lessons, or were you self-taught?
I took lessons for a couple of years, just basic stuff, just reading. It was kind of academic, and on my own, actually, I started learning chords on my own and formed the band. And so I'm really not a well-schooled musician like people who go to colleges and all that,
Who was the first live performance that you saw that really kind of blew your mind?
Wow, geez, the first one. It's hard to remember. I remember seeing Great Blues at the World's Fair. I think it was '64. I think the Paul Butterfield Blues Band I saw there. And in Hoboken, there was a black club called Zanzibar. And my buddy, who became our drummer, lived right above there. And we used to hang out outside the Zanzibar and listen to the Chitlin Circuit bands coming through, man. That was, didn't see them, but we heard them, I saw Ray Charles in '66, and I saw, believe it or not, the first tour of the Who and the Cream that same year. I still remember that. And they were opening up for Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, which I thought. Of course, I used to go to the Fillmore and listen and see the Allman Brothers, Pink Floyd, Vanilla Fudge, you name them. I was there. And then, so when we finally made it there, it was like, oh, wow. It was great.
So how many bands did you play in before, connecting with Mandrill? What was the path that got you up, just before getting with Mandrill?
That was the only band. We called ourselves the VJs, and we won a Battle of Bands contest. And this brother, I forgot his name. Jeez. Anyway, he signed us to his little record company and stuff. He got us to play at the Audubon Ballroom, of all places. These little white kids, I guess, Latino and white kids coming. And we rocked the house, man. Because we were eclectic in a way like Mandrill. We played James Brown. Sam and Dave, and we'll play the Stones. You know, had a well-rounded repertoire.
Did you feel more at home, playing rhythm or lead or both?
I like both. I love rhythm. You know, I love groove. I love the groove of rhythm. And lead is, you just get to express yourself and let it fly.
So how did you connect with Mandrill? Was it, through the Wilson brothers or somebody else, or what happened?
Well, what happened was, when I saw Carlos Santana play in the Fillmore, I decided, man, that's what I want to do. I want to be a musician. And for the next year, I went to all these auditions that I found through the Village Voice, and that's how I met them. One day there was this ad, and I rolled up to their mom's beauty salon in Bed-Stuy, and they had the hair dryers pulled away and the amps out, and I got a really great vibe just right off the bat from the brothers, Wilson brothers, and they already had Charlie Padro on drums. They already had Bundy Sinek on bass and Coffee on keyboards. I was like the last piece, I think, that they added, of course, the brothers. And when I saw the congas and timbales, I freaked. I said, wow, man, this is, I love this, And so we started jamming, and man, it's just the vibe was there. It was just, they told me later on that, they interviewed auditioned a bunch of guitarists, and that perhaps I didn't have the most chops from even than the cats that they brought in, but the vibe, the feel was solid between us. And so that's how it started.
And what was your impression of the Wilsons? What was their vibe like? And was, Rick sort of the leader, or how'd that work?
Well, they have each one was a leader in their own right in a different way, Rick was more of a business leader. Carlos was like a musical leader. And Lou was like all that, he was our spokesman. And I learned a lot from the brothers. Lou taught me more about jazz and jazz artists, that exposed me to that. And he was like a big kid, loved him. May he rest in peace, It was a really heartwarming vibe, I got to tell you. And maybe because they had Panamanian, West Indian roots, and I was Cuban, and it just kind of gelled, like at the heart level and the feel level. It was solid. I was happy when they called me and I said I got the gig, And so I had to travel from Hoboken to Bed-Stuy. Like I think I had a day gig. I was a computer programmer, believe it or not, at the time still. And I quit, and I started playing with them like 4 nights a week on Filton Street. What was that? Blue Carnet. We started playing there.
About how old were you?
Well, about 22, I guess. Yeah, 22.
And did they have a record deal yet, or no?
No, and I don't know how we got it, other than somebody knew Bo Ray Fleming, who wound up being our manager, and he got us into Columbia Studios on 30th Street, I think it is, gigantic studio, and we did a demo for a few of our tunes for Columbia, and they already had Santana's. They passed on us, and then but Bo got us to Polydor, and they signed us.
So were you playing originals right from the get-go, or mostly covers, or what was the repertoire like?
Oh yeah, well, when we played live, I think we threw in some covers, like maybe Mercy, 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 or some stuff like that, but mainly originals. Yeah.
So what do you remember about the experience of recording that first record?
Well, it was Electric Ladyland, and so it was mind blowing, to go in there. Unfortunately, it was a few months after Jimmy had passed away, and we did get to meet Eddie Kramer, who was his manager and engineer. We had an actual, I think, a former drummer for a band called, what were they called, Blues something, Dave Palmer. He was our engineer, and Bo Ray was our producer, and so it was really an exciting time. Getting the Electric Ladyland Studio is an amazing place, amazing studio. Have you been there?
I've not. I would love to.
They have a mural that runs way along the wall, all the way like from one studio to the other. An amazing mural that they have there, and even in the bathroom, it was psychedelic with Jimmy. Things all over the place, montage, things like that. It was fantastic. Later on, actually about a year after that, when we did our second album there, I got to jam with Mitch Mitchell, Jimmy's drummer, and Dougie Roush was there from Santana. We were just fooling around, having a jam, the three of us, so that was fun.
Wow. That first record, were there a lot of takes, or you just kind of, hit it and quit it, or?
There weren't many takes, man. No, we did maybe a couple. I don't remember us doing really more than 2 takes on just about any song, and then yeah, that's it. I had my Gibson SG, my Gibson SG back then. Oh yeah, Charlie Padro, Bundy Sinek. I'm still in touch with Charlie. Oh yeah, that's funny because I always looked at that inside like Mandrill's evolving into us, and then other people saying, "Oh no, you guys were becoming the Mandrill." It was kind of funny, and so.
Well, speaking of that, Omar, where did the sort of conceptual aspect of Mandrill come from?
Well, we were so eclectic that it's hard to. That was in a way. We were too eclectic for the record company. That's why in the third album, they said, you got to pick. We want to hit. You got to pick a direction. Because if you listen to the first 2 albums, I mean, we had gospel, we had all kinds of stuff going on, Latin jazz. Well, Peace and Love, the 17-minute suite, is African drumming, breakdown, and Latin jazz as well, and rock, just straight up rock. I was sampled by the end of one of the movements there from Peace and Love. I was sampled by Kanye and Eminem. We've been for back being also we've been sampled over 200 times.
It has like a cinematic scope, some of that music, to me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Some of the tunes were like that. Symphonic Revolution, Moroccan Nights is almost like a movie tune, when you listen to that one.
Well, did you guys ever get approached or consider, soundtrack stuff at that time?
Well, after I left the band, later on in the 70s, they did the soundtrack for the first Muhammad Ali movie, The Greatest.
Yeah. So when that first record came out, how did you feel about it? I mean, did you hear any tunes on the radio, and how did you feel hearing yourself on the radio?
Well, it was very exciting, of course, and we were being played on like WNEW FM. We never made it to AM, pretty much. That's why we, I guess, developed a cult following from our live performances and stuff. But we're on WNEW FM. Scott Muni, he would play that whole 17-minute sweet Peace and Love. I heard that, and it was an amazing experience on our first tour, because you're the opening act, and nobody knows you. And we opened up for Mata Hoople on the east side with Fillmore East, and then we'd open up for Miles Davis in Fillmore West. And Detroit, played with John Mayall underneath the, the undercard, so to speak. But the most amazing lesson in marketing that I got from our first tour was Hawaii, Honolulu, Hawaii. We were promoted by this fellow who owned the radio station. And for about a month before we went there, he played us to death at his station, and he promoted a concert for us. And we headlined, and we sold out an 8,000 seat arena. When we were like, nobody knew us in the States. It was like, wow, this is amazing. We were signing autographs in the street. So it was like, all of a sudden, boom, nobody knows us in the States. And here, like, was, whoo, who's this? That was fascinating.
How did you feel about the rigors of touring, being on the road, and how did you feel on stage? Were you comfortable on stage, or?
Oh yeah. I had a great time on stage. I kind of like interacted with Lou a lot, because I was to the right of Lou all the time, and with the congas, and he was. When I would take a solo, Lou would come over and do all kinds of things like to get me going more, and stuff like that. So it was great, and I love the rhythm. I love the breakdowns of rhythm, like the first song that we recorded, a Mandrill tune. So bring back to my Latin roots. That percussion, I just love it.
Did you rehearse a lot?
Before we got signed, we rehearsed 6 nights a week. And even after, actually, we then got a loft in Chelsea, and we were there every day rehearsing at night.
So when the second record came out, you guys got a taste of more success, because Get It All went to 37. And Ape Is High, what a great opening track. Love the guitar strumming riff and the wah-wah stuff you do on that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So I just kind of came out a little fiercer and funkier, I would say, on that record than the first one.
Yeah, funkier, and then it still had a lot of elements of rock in there, It was like a mix of funk and rock, I would say.
Yeah. So at that point, you're starting to go out on bigger like festivals, right? Because I remember,
oh yeah,
I didn't get to go to any of them, but I've seen a lot of posters and things, huge
right.
bills with Mandrill,
yeah,
Ohio Players, and just tons of groups.
Yeah. It was in '73 that it was really exploded. We were playing to 85,000 people, like at the Duff concert, RFK Stadium. We headlined over Buddy Miles and Rare Earth and Funkadelics. They would open up for us, man, in the Spectrum in Philly, 15,000 people. We played there another time with Pharoah Sanders and Nina Simone. That was amazing. We got a lot of opportunity to play in different scenarios. We opened up for Duke Ellington, believe it or not, at Avery Fisher Hall. We played there with a 90-piece symphony another time. That's what I was talking about, the eclectic part of this band. We're like a world music band. If you listen to the 3 albums, you could say it's a world music band. Calypso, I mean, you name it is on there.
Yeah. So that was how much of that was a conscious effort to bring all that in versus just organically? It just kind of was.
I think it was more, like you said, more organically, because each of the fellas had their own things that they wanted to bring, and then we'd all work on it. We'd all like collaborate on the arrangements, and throw it about. No, that ain't so good. Let's throw that out. Let's do it. Try it this way. I mean, we go on for hours on one tune, and for days as well, to sort it out, get it as best as we can. But Polk Street, I mean, that's their West Indian roots. They and so that's part of them, the Wilson brothers, and so that's how that came about. For instance, that's organic like that.
Who were a couple of the groups among those you mentioned, or maybe some you didn't mention yet, that you thought just killed it back then? Besides you guys.
Oh well, Earth, Wind, and Fire, yeah, for sure. And when we opened up for Stevie Wonder, so and then we opened up for the Allman Brothers. That's a whole other scenario, but great band, We opened up for B.B. King. I mean, we loved all kinds of artists, and we got lucky to play with a lot of them.
I was just talking to Rusty Allen, and he was talking about Sly and the Family Stone being on the bill with Mandrill. Do you remember playing with them?
Well, I love Sly. As a matter of fact, to me, they were the first. I mean, James Brown, yeah, but Sly, man, he took funk to a new level, Well, the only time I recall, and I met Sly briefly at a recording studio in California, but the only time I recall that we actually played, supposed to play, was he was supposed to play at Randall's Island in New York to 85,000 people, but I believe he didn't make that gig. And if there were others that we played, I don't remember, because I don't remember all the shows, man. I forgot I forgot most of the shows I played. So,
well, hopefully they didn't riot at that one when he didn't show.
That's the one that there was almost a riot, man. So people who were there, I've seen on Facebook people talking about it. Oh yeah, I was there, and we were on this little stage, very. It wasn't like the Stones at Altamont where you're up high, and so that was something. I loved Sly's music, man. Thank you for letting me be myself, man. That's one of the funkiest tunes ever.
Yes. Yeah, that's a landmark tune right there.
Yeah.
So,
can I say one more thing? I'm sorry. I think we were influenced by that, by the way, because at the end of Ape Is High, when we were getting people to go hi, saying hi in our shows, we'd have the audience say singing along, shouting along hi with us. I think that came from I Want to Take You Higher, whether it was conscious or unconscious. It was there, Truth and rhythm. Okay, there it is.
Hey, you know what? All the bands borrowed here and there from each other, and that's what helped push it all forward too.
Yeah, everybody borrows from each other. I mean, I remember talking to Coffee from Mandrill just a little while back. He said that Maurice White, may he rest in peace, in his autobiography, he mentioned us, and Coffee remembers that after we played with them, that then they added the percussion that we had, similar with congas and timbales, that they added them after they'd seen us play, So it's like that. Goes back and forth.
The one group we didn't mention that I always thought I had some similarities with Mandrill too was War.
Oh yeah, sure, definitely, same vibe, absolutely.
And even some of the Mandrill music I hear, I think some Chicago influence.
Chicago, you got it. That was another one. Yeah, I mean, we have so many influences and people describing us in so many ways. That was one of the names that came up. Santana, Chicago, these would come up all the time, different, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Now, how spontaneous were the shows? For people that haven't been to one or weren't able to go to one back then, what was the experience like? How can you describe it?
Well, it evolved over time. Like I said, the first tour, we weren't known other than all of a sudden, boom, in Hawaii. And then things started to grow. We sold out Carnegie Hall. And, being a local band, and selling out that place. It was like really amazing. So it was very exciting. The excitement started to grow. And then I'll tell you one thing, because also doing TV shows, amazing to do Soul Train, Soul on Channel 13 of New York, and Soul Train. And then one thing was, at the end of '72, we got invited by Randy Weston to go play in Tangiers, Morocco, at a jazz festival, and also in Spain. And there we played Hubert Laws, and they played in the bull ring. We were supposed to play in that bull ring, but it was the night we played. We wound up going inside to some burlesque theater, believe it or not, that they had there, because it was too windy, and so the sand would be blowing up all over the place. But the point of that, one of the things that we took away from that, well, apart from the outfits on Composite Truth, we brought all those clothes back, was that we got introduced to this band, local tribe called the Jalala. And we were backstage. Backstage was where the bulls were kept, It's these stone walls, gigantic rooms. And they were in there before they go out to play, jamming for like 45 minutes before they go out to play. And we were just digging the groove. There's just 6 of them. It's an expert, like an experienced older fella. And there was the round drum, I forget the name of it, a flute, and the clackaboz, which we used on Hang Loose. We brought that back too. Those spoons, And so what we took from that, though, is that what they did was, after jamming there, then they strolled out to the stage, jamming and playing. And by the time they got to the stage, the whole audience was crazed already from it. And that's when we changed. That's what we're going to do from now on. And so if you see, like, when we go onto Soul Train or some of these shows, and anybody who went to our shows after that point, you would see us coming from the back of the stage, the 7 of us, each with a percussion instrument, jamming, get to the stage, and it was like you're starting off where almost sometimes it would end off in some other shows, So you could only take it higher from there.
Yeah, the intensity of Hang Loose on that Soul Train performance,
Yeah,
unbelievable. And back then, they played live on Soul Train. They stopped doing that after a while.
We played live, man. That was live. Yeah.
Maybe they started lip syncing because you guys were so intense. They're like, we got to change this.
I don't know. That was great, though.
Yes, definitely great. Classic. But did you guys usually follow the set list pretty much, whatever it was, or did you kind of just,
Yeah, we had a set list pretty much. That's it. Yeah. It was never, I can't ever remember a time where we just like alter it in the middle of the show,
Did any of those people like Stevie Wonder or whoever might also have been on the bill ever come up and play with you guys?
No, that would have been awesome. I got to shake his hand afterwards, but that's about it.
What Mandrill Is, what was the idea behind that title, do you think?
I guess it's like we're still here. I don't know. I have no idea where that came from, to be honest with you. And the cover, it was interesting because it was done by an artist down in Tribeca, and we actually had to pose for that inside cover. And I still had long hair back then, and he would select something about the personality of each person. He tried to, and because I'm a Libra. It was like Libra the Dreamer. That was his idea. That's what Mandrill Is. But that was also another eclectic album.
The label must have really been behind you guys, though, because there were really nice packages with gatefolds, and
Yeah. Well, kind of the sign of the times back then, though, pretty much, you know. A lot of the bands had that kind of leeway because
Yeah.
it was part of the art. Part of the art was getting an album and looking at the liner notes, opening it up. You know, that was a great thing. There's the credits, who's and all that stuff, which is gone today, pretty much. But that was a great time for that.
On that record, Mandrill Is, you actually wrote two of the tracks, Central Park and The Sun Must Go Down.
Mm-hmm.
Sun Must Go Down, real kind of nice jazzy vibe to that.
Yeah, jazzy, sort of Chicago. I mean, Carlos Wilson was great as an arranger, you know, and he come up, and Coffee too. Coffee would come up with a string arrangement for Central Park at the end. And by the way, Ron Carter, a great bassist, he just bowed the intro. It's a very slow intro. And we had Al Brown was our producer, who was a viola player who was contracted to play in a lot of sessions. He knew all the session dudes in New York, and I got of all people, Ron Carter to come and just bow that intro, you know. But then, like I said, Coffee did a great string arrangement, and like Carlos did a great horn arrangement for the Sun Must Go Down. And, Central Park, but also other cats like Coffee did the breakdowns of like the organ, and it's almost classical breakdown in the middle.
With Mandrill, I mean, it's hard to really call out one element as being like the most special, but I will say just, you know, the percussion, like you mentioned, the organ and keyboards, the guitar and the horns. I mean, all of it was just kicking.
Yeah, multi-instrumentalist. I mean, Carlos played about 7-8 instruments by himself, you know, and like on Polk Street, all of a sudden he's got an alto sax, you know. I mean, the timbales, the flute, great. He was great on flute, and Coffee playing vibes, apart from the B3, you know, and the percussion, you know, boosted by the rhythm section.
Yeah.
There's much more to this great Truth and Rhythm interview. Just continue on to the next part of the episode. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. And become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you very much.